All right, we're back with another interview. Another one of my partners. This is someone you're going to want to pay close attention to because he's having as phenomenal success early on in his journey as like literally just about anyone I've ever seen. So we've got Riley Hexel out in Chicago, Illinois, and he's someone who started the business barely over a year ago, towards the beginning of 2023, beginning of 2024 when we're recording this. And although he's managed to run another business outside of real estate with some 30 hours a week, he's still managed within the time he's been in real estate to become a top producing agent. In fact, he came in number one in the state of Illinois just a year into the business out of 1,400 agents, crazy enough. So with that, and that's what, $5 million plus in volume, 17 plus deals, and a ton of rentals on top of that just a year into the business. But with that, man, we got Riley Hexel in the house. What's going on, Riley?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Super excited to kind of go through this and kind of tell my story.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked to share it more with the people tuning in and listening in because it's inspiring so far, even though, I mean, it's just the start of this story, man. But let's talk about it. What was your life like before real estate came into the picture, man?
So I mean, like immediately before real estate, now I'm a personal trainer. I still do that. It takes up, like you said, like 20 to 30 hours a week of my time now, probably. But prior to real estate, I was doing more than that. I was doing probably 30 to 40 hours a week. So I mean, that was really it, professionally, at least that was kind of my main focus. That's what I was doing. I'm still doing it a little bit here and there, but, for the most part, that was it.
So personal trainer, was that kind of your like passion, or like I guess what got you started down that path originally?
Yeah. So prior to that, I was in the military, as you know, but people watching this might not. So I was in the military. I got out in 2016, I believe. As I was kind of transitioning out, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I liked to work out. I knew I liked to help people, work out and stuff like that. So I ended up kind of getting into personal training. So probably within 2 months or so after I'd gotten out, I got a job in Chicago at a gym as a personal trainer. I just like fitness myself. I've always kind of liked it. I like to work out. It's, head clearing space for me. It's kind of like my personal time. It's a hobby, all of the above. So I figured doing that professionally would be something I would enjoy. And like, I do still enjoy it. But, fast forward a couple years down the road, COVID happened. The gym I worked at was downtown Chicago. As everybody knows, COVID kind of shut down everything, but like gym specifically was a big thing. So once that happened, it kind of got me like questioning what I was doing and what I wanted to do and like the path I wanted to take and just everything really. So that kind of jump started me creating my own personal training business. So I think it was 2021 was when I, left the gym I was working at, started my own personal training business. And then that's kind of continued on to this day. Within that same amount of time was when I had kind of really gotten into the stock market, since I wasn't working and I was just kind of sitting around reading all day or whatever I was doing. I had a ton of time to kill learning stocks, watching the market, listening to people on YouTube, all that kind of stuff, which ultimately had led to our connection and kind of, similarities there with how we both kind of came into real estate from the stock market. During that time, I was also trying to purchase my own house. So that was kind of what was like the, first step into me getting into real estate, I would say. It was probably 2020 or so when I was like really trying to like look into buying my own house and doing all that stuff. COVID happened, obviously, that screwed up my income. So that kind of delayed the process for me. A year down the road, like I said, started my own business. Once I was self-employed, that kind of screwed up my income for, getting pre-approved for a house and all that, which I didn't know now, or didn't know then, but I know now. So again, it took another 2 years or so until I could like qualify for a loan. During that time, I was just trying to buy my own house, kind of looked into just getting licensed in real estate, hoping that if anything, it would help me just be more knowledgeable in my home buying purchase, or, help save me some money on the commission side or whatever it was. And ultimately it accomplished both of those things. And then, once we kind of connected with each other, I kind of just fell into real estate. It was never really something I anticipated getting into really. But as I was presented with the opportunities and I really looked into it and I thought about the long-term plan and all this kind of stuff, it was just the only decision that really made sense everywhere, I think.
Wow, so that's interesting. So, by the time you actually had your license, you weren't necessarily thinking that, hey, I'm really going to build a business here. It sounds like you were more so looking at how you could use it for your personal transactions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the time I got the license, I was I didn't know exactly where real estate would go. I knew I was going to try it out. And to me at the time, I think it was just going to be more of something on the side I was doing. But that initial stage, when I just first started doing the licensing course and just learning, at that point, it was really solely to learn more for my personal purchases and everything like that. Right. Once I dug into it and really learned more and just thought about it, the ceiling on real estate is kind of uncapped. There is really no ceiling with what you can accomplish, personally, financially, just all the above. So as I got more into it, that's what kind of drew me more and more and more, towards creating a career with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's really cool, man, because I know a lot of people do get into this, really thinking, hey, I do want to build a career or something with it. And it's kind of interesting that you were kind of seeking that knowledge first and foremost, I think above anything else. And then you recognized opportunity the more you dove into it. So getting started, obviously we get a license. We have to hang that hat somewhere as far as a brokerage goes. I know you're someone who's super smart and probably did more research than I feel like a lot of people do getting started. So ultimately, we ended up running together here at eXp Realty. I guess why eXp and why do you go, I guess, in this direction versus any of the other options you saw on the table there?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think back, when I was going through the process, I interviewed with a couple of different brokerages around here. Essentially I'm kind of downtown Chicago. So there's, I don't know, probably 100 different brokerages, but there's a handful that are kind of the top 5 or 10. So I chatted with a couple of them. And I specifically remember one day I went to the office for one of them. I won't name the brokerage or anything, but this specific brokerage, they have they've probably got 4 or 5 offices within a 3 to 4 mile radius. And I went to the office this day. I mean, it was really snowy outside. It was kind of bad conditions, but I'm there and I was there for maybe an hour, hour and a half. And I think within that time frame, there was maybe 2 to 3 people total that were in this office. And I know the office itself had 250 agents that worked out of it, something around there. And then spread across, a handful of different offices throughout the city. So, they had this in-person office. And I thought that was a really big thing for me at first. And then I realized it didn't matter to me at all. And, eXp doesn't have in-person offices really. So, that kind of eliminated that factor for me. That was a doubt in my mind initially. And then as I learned more and more on eXp and talked to you guys and saw all the live trainings and just everything that comes with it, I realized that there's an online presence that has a stronger community than a lot of these brokerages that have 5 offices with 250 agents that aren't going to the office anyways, right? At least with eXp, I mean, we have, our weekly meetings or weekly trainings or whatever it is, and you're connecting with all these people who are across the world or across the country or maybe in the same city or whatever it is. But there's a bigger online community, I think, than there is in a lot of physical offices. And with that being said, we're partnered with somebody, like yourself. You're in Texas, I'm in Illinois. We can collaborate. We're not competitors in any way. And I think that's very different than a lot of these other physical locations as well. So it just kind of, forces this community almost of like-minded agents that all want to really help each other and push each other to be successful versus, making each other competitors.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool that you recognize that getting into the business. And I mean, yeah, it's funny enough. I hear it frequently that like, hey, like no matter what office you're at, like people don't go to the office. So like if you're getting into this industry and thinking, I want to surround myself with other people that are producing, usually people figure out after quite some time passes and they make a decision to go with a specific place. It's like, hey, where are all the top producers? Well, reality is most of the people in the office are the newbies trying to like they're all
Right.
at the same point in their journey trying to figure this thing out. So it's really cool that you kind of recognize that in an interview you went on, just observing like, damn, like where are all these agents here? But having said that, and having had, a little over a year time on task within this company and structure, like what do you say you've personally found to be the most beneficial thing about operating your business with EXP?
The most beneficial, I mean, like it's kind of a broad answer, I guess, but just the model of EXP, I think, the whole rev share program, I think with EXP, like on the surface, it looks like just like a revenue share program, like, like the name says. But the program itself, like that kind of mentioned, it just incentivizes agents to help each other. And I don't think a lot of other brokerages have anything like that unless you're like on a team where they're taking 25% of your commission or whatever. So and that incentivized aspect, kind of, like I said, creates a community of agents who are all helping each other. So I think that's been like one of the biggest helps for me is just, I can hop on a call with you and ask you a bunch of questions about a transaction if I need to, or I can enter it or, enter a question into our workplace chat, or I can hop on EXP World and talk to somebody really quick. I mean, you have all these different, what's the right word? Just avenues, I guess, of agents that you can get help from with anything really.
Yeah, that's massive. Like to be able to turn to so many different people. Because I'm thinking back to even when I started, I didn't really have that. To me, it was like always a mystery. It's like, wow, who am I really going to reach out to for help? And it's not because I was at like a small place. Like I was with literally the biggest brokerage in my local market at that point in time, biggest office, but I didn't really have a clear direction as far as like, hey, when you need something, here's who you reach. Like obviously the broker. But problem in those situations is if you have a broker who's responsible for hundreds of agents and they're running other businesses on top of that, it's like, how available are they really when you need something? So it's kind of cool to hear that like you experience a situation where you have just so many different people you could turn to, and many of them are actually incentivized to help you from what you're saying. That's a game changer. So what would you say kind of along this journey? And I mean, maybe it was helpful that this wasn't your first time starting a business. We would probably like to hear some insight on that. But obviously, it's not an easy journey that we're on here, taking control of our own destiny, our own paycheck, and really, being fully accountable to like, hey, either we're doing what's required to produce results or not, and thus, some people produce results, others get out of the industry. But what would you say along this journey so far, man, has been the most difficult thing you've had to overcome since deciding to make that commitment to actually get started in real estate?
Most difficult thing, honestly, it's a good question. I don't really know if I have an answer. I think that's probably just partially due to my background, but I would say, the most difficult thing is just time management, I guess. I think I'm personally good at managing my time, obviously managing kind of two businesses and everything that I have going on outside of like personal relationships and all that kind of stuff. But that's definitely like the most difficult. You know, I think to get started in this industry and be successful, like right off the bat, I'd be very surprised if you can find an agent who doesn't work more than 50, 60 hours a week. Right. So, I mean, doing that while also trying to like enjoy time with your significant other or your family or whatever it is. That's probably been the most difficult, but I mean, I think that's just kind of life at the same time. So I don't know if that'll ever necessarily get easy. I think you just get better at kind of managing it and figuring out priorities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess you could say that probably some of your prior experience played into that. I mean, from running your own business, and then also I'd imagine some of your experiences from the military, right? Like, what would you say from those two different, fields that you've really applied yourself to? What would you say, like, the biggest thing is you took away from each of them that you're applying today in real estate?
Uh, Discipline, like 100%. And I think within discipline kind of comes that time management and everything else. But like you have to be disciplined. At least I think, to be successful, especially early on in this industry. I mean, maybe if you've been in it for 10 years, you'll start to find success if you're not very disciplined. But I mean, waking up and like for me, working out's an important thing. So I do that very early on. A lot of the time I'm working, for an hour or so before I go work out at 7 o'clock, just doing paperwork or figuring out what I need to do for the day. And then just time blocking everything, whether it's a training or, a client that I have to go train somewhere, or like I have a showing I have to go do, or I have an inspection or whatever it is, just really being disciplined and managing your time. And just kind of staying on the ball with everything. Like you have to be plugged in 24/7, really. Like you can't really, at least that's how I've been so far. I guess, it might be different for somebody else, but you can't just shut down and ignore something and hope that it works out. Right. Like you kind of have to take action on everything, be responsible for everything, and just kind of take control of the situation.
Yeah, no, discipline. That's a big key right there. See, like what I see is a lot of people seem to rely way too much on motivation. It's like, hey, if they lose it, they're kind of not really doing, the thing they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think it's imperative that we all get to a point where we're not relying on motivation, but we have discipline that we've built up to where, hey, regardless if we have the motivation or not, like we still are putting our best foot forward. And that's kind of more in our control, because like we can't really control whether or not we feel motivated all the time, but we can control if we've built up that discipline and are continue to put our best foot forward despite life circumstances or what's hitting us any given day. So that's really cool to hear that you it sounds like you probably got that, I would imagine, from the military, and then just from your experiences past that point, right?
Yeah, I think for me, like it's kind of I'm big on that, like motivation, discipline, like they're similar, but they're very different at the same time. And I think kind of motivation comes before discipline. Like you're not going to be motivated, and amped up every single morning you wake up just because, right? Like eventually it kind of dies down. But like when you do have that motivation, in those first 3 months when you're getting into real estate, like that's when you have to build, those good habits and the building blocks for your career, essentially. Because that motivation will die down at some point. You'll have a deal that you hate dealing with and you'll be exhausted and you don't want to do it and you'd rather go hang out with your friends on the weekend or whatever it is. And in those situations, that's when, that discipline is the most important. And if you really didn't hone in on it when you had that motivation, it becomes tough.
Yeah, 100%. So what would you say in the process of like launching your real estate business, not having any clients, no dollars produced in real estate to where you are today, consistently working with new clients? Shoot, I think you have like 3 closings coming up this week or something like that. But like, what's the biggest thing you've learned, or maybe you want to call it a breakthrough? I don't know, but like in the process of going from zero to where you are today in real estate?
The biggest thing I learned,
Yeah.
um, communication, I guess. Like communication is key in this industry, I think. So, right now I've got a handful of people that I've talked to within the last year that want to buy or they want to do something at some point. And for a lot of people, that conversation comes months in advance before they actually do something. Or maybe somebody's trying to do something and in this market, it might take them months to find a house or whatever it is. So you kind of have to communicate properly and frequently, I think, when it comes to clients or another agent on the other side or whoever it is. And with, it just makes everything so much easier. And then, it keeps those contacts going and keeps the conversations going with clients who want to do something at some point. And then that's kind of where the business comes from, I guess. If you talk to somebody who wants to buy in 6 months and I talk to him today and then I don't ever reach out to him again, chances are they're talking to somebody else, right?
Yeah, communication is so important. And yeah, it's 100% on us. Like, people are not just going to go to us because we had one great conversation or connection with them. We got to, intentionally stay in front of them over the course of time until they're ready to take the next steps forward,
Yeah.
with the purchase or sell. But how would you say, man, like you've had a lot of traction in, about a year, very short period of time for someone who's been in this business. So how has the success you've found so far in real estate impacted your life?
Personally, I'm making more money than I've ever made, like by far. So, in its own way, like that has a lot of impact on everything else. Me and my girlfriend are taking a trip to Croatia in June and kind of paid for it. And it didn't really matter. It kind of is what it is. And we're going to go take a trip and it's cool. Right. So, in that sense, it's just made everything else a lot less stressful. Financially, I don't really have to worry about anything. The house I'm in right now, I bought after getting into real estate and I got paid basically to buy it. So it was zero out of pocket. And I think I walked away with $500. So, I own my own house now because of that. It's had a lot of positive impacts directly and indirectly, I guess, just because of everything that's kind of happened and the work that I've put in.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It sounds like, I'm guessing you used the VA loan to get into your current place. Is that right?
Yep.
That's amazing. So, like, next to nothing out of pocket, you're building equity. Yeah, anyone out there, if you're eligible to use a VA loan, you've got to put it to work.
Yeah, I actually did a walkthrough today. I was telling you that before this. So final walkthrough on a property that a client's buying. They're using a VA loan. And they're getting, the purchase price was like around 250 or so. And then they're getting like 10 grand in credits. So I think they're going to walk away with probably 500 to 1,000 as well. So nothing out of pocket. They're going to own their own house. They're about to have a baby. So, it's just like it's a super powerful tool, especially for somebody like that who obviously is about to have a bunch of other expenses that they want to have money for, right?
Yeah, such a game changer. And that's one of my favorite things about our business is how we get to help educate people on what they can actually do, how to navigate it well, so they can, position them and their families to actually have something to show over the course of their journey as they're working, because, you're either building equity in something or you're not. So, at some point, if we want to have something for our families, we got to make that shift. So it's real cool to see that you've done that in a big way since getting into the industry. Now you're helping others, follow suit as well on that path. So, man, what would you say is next? Like, what do you most look forward to accomplishing in the time ahead, through what you envision with what you're building here in real estate?
There's a couple things. I don't know if I have like a straight answer for that. I don't know if I've really sat down and like thought about what I want it to look like in 5 years, because so much has happened in this last year. that I think what I thought would be possible will get kind of blown out of the water. So I don't know if reality is really hit with that yet, but you know, next steps I think for me is I'm just really trying to focus on my business and do as much as I can again this year and build off the relationships I've built, and then at some point start a team here within Chicago. I think I don't think, I know there's a lot of agents out there who have been in the game longer than I have and who have done a lot less and who are struggling. And I don't think it's due to their lack of motivation or discipline or whatever. I think a lot of it is just due in lack to the community or the lack of community that they have. Um, so, really trying to help out the community within real estate and help out other agents and kind of show them, the path to what I've done and how they can do it too. Because I think it's very possible to duplicate everything that I've done. I mean, and you've helped me do it and you've helped multiple other agents do it, right? So we both kind of know what's there and what needs to be done. I think especially with how the market was last year, with it being, one of the lowest transaction numbers in the last 20 years or whatever it was. And then all the changes that are kind of happening this year, with the commissions and everything in real estate, it's frightening to a lot of people. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because I think it just creates a lot of opportunity for somebody new to come in, make their mark, and just take market share from everybody else that's been in this game for 20 years. And, while it hasn't really changed within that time for them, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. There's so much opportunity in it to begin in the industry if you move the right way. If you're surrounding yourself with the right people and plugging in the right resources to help you along the way, just like you have. Um, so if you could go back, man, to your first day with this license in hand, like knowing everything you've learned since that point, and could give yourself just one thing, one small thing, what would that piece of advice be?
Mm, that's a tough one. I'm not prepared for that question. One piece of advice, I mean, it would really be to get out there and get out in my community more, I guess, would be my advice. And just to network more, whether it's with homeowners or people trying to buy or just the community in general, I think. And that's something I still don't do as much as I would like to today. But, I think relationships are just so important in this industry and just like in life in general. Um, that, that's something I wish I would have gone out and done a lot more right off the bat. Um, and, there's always time to do that again. And that's kind of something I'm focusing on now, but that would definitely be like my biggest piece of advice, that I wasn't doing prior to this.
Yeah, that's great. I'd imagine you're thinking like, shoot, I could have probably done more if I had done that sooner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense. So yeah, so I mean, everyone, I think that's like almost a wrap here. Except I want to say one more thing. Man, Riley, you mentioned you have a vision of building a team. I think locally. What's cool on top of that is the structure Riley and I operate within. It's not just like a locally based structure. Like for instance, Riley aligned with me coming on board. I'm in Texas. I've literally only been to the Chicago airport, unfortunately. Just haven't really gotten to experience it. But
I've
despite
never been
that,
to Texas, so.
oh, well, there you go. But despite that, we're collaborating. He's been able to tap into a lot of the, support and resources that I've helped facilitate. And so what I want to extend to our listeners out there, if anyone resonated with your story, your journey, and perhaps, they're in real estate, they're wanting to do more in their business than they've done up to this point, and maybe there's something they said that resonated with them. So if you resonated with Riley's story and journey at all, and you would like to potentially connect more with us to see how we can help you take your business to the next level, any resources we can share along the way, I'd love for you guys to connect with us. Would you be cool if anyone wanted to reach out, Riley?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, do this. So if that's you and kind of what we're saying spoke to you, go ahead and send an email. You'll find it in the description below. I want you to specifically mention this interview with Riley out of Chicago. Make sure you mention that in the email. And if it's appropriate, I will work to actually get you connected with Riley, and we can strategize mastermind on okay, what can we do to help you get your business to the next point to find more traction and success. That's regardless of where you're located on the map. If you happen to be in Chicago, that would probably be cool too, but it definitely don't have to be. You can be absolutely anywhere on the map. And I appreciate that, Riley, because I know we both want to help others grow and develop on this journey that we've seen success on. But if anyone wants to follow you on your journey, man, where would be the place for them to do that?
Yeah. I mean, just search my name on anything and I'll pop up. I think my Instagram handle is Riley underscore luxury. I'm on Facebook though. Just search my name, Riley Hexel. Um, YouTube, same thing. I forget exactly what my YouTube handle is, but if you search my name, I'll pop up on there. Um, yeah, that's probably the main three, I think.
Perfect. So yeah, if you liked what you heard, go follow Riley, especially on Instagram. You'll see the deals he's closing and all that good stuff. But Riley, man, thank you for taking time out of your busy day here to make this happen to share with the audience. I know someone got value out of this, so I really appreciate it, brother.
Of course, man. I appreciate you having me.
And everyone else, hey, if somehow you haven't already subscribed, hit that button. And most importantly, by the way, implement something. You heard some insight from, one of the, I would say, biggest up and coming real estate agents in the industry right now, like literally taking the top spot in his state. There's not a lot of people seeing that kind of traction early on. So point is, you should have gotten something out of this discussion. So I want you to take one thing you learned from it, go apply it immediately in your business and life and see what happens as a result of consistently doing that over the course of time. And if there's anything we can do to help, like I said, reach out, send an email. Maybe you don't know what we can do to help, but let us know your situation. We'll take a look at it. We'll see what we can bring to the table to help you add to it. But thank you for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.